I've done a couple of these videos now. They never go that well, but I will do my best. So, in the last video, I showed you the little mini versions of some of these and the 5 products I pack when I go away. Now, what I'm going to sort of talk about in this video is what I do a bit differently when I'm at home. It's really not that much different, but we'll discuss it, we'll discuss the type of products, and we might actually discuss the evolution of why and how I've got to this point in my extreme minimalist journey. For those of you who've been here sort of the 2 years of my YouTube channel, you will remember that when I started to do with my products all guns blazing. I wanted to be very extreme. I started with just a few products, but there was a moment where I didn't only just use a Dr. Bronner's, you know, like that's not minimal enough. There was a point where I only used an olive oil soap for everything, you know, washing, shampooing, even some other version of that in the kitchen for my pots. And it was, even though it has olive oil in it, it was very, very drying for my hair. I decided that that was a little bit too extreme for me, so I graduated up to the Dr. Bronner's, which although it is still a Castile soap, it has some oils in it, which I personally find not quite as drying. And if you do use some kind of oil afterwards, like as a conditioner or in place of a conditioner, you can get away with just the Dr. Bronner's and the oil. Now, what I said in the last video is I was going to suggest how it can be different on a monthly basis for me. For instance, at the start of the year, because we've had Christmas, I have my birthday, from January till about June, I have more products than I normally have because of those two, you know, moments in our calendar. But towards the summer, sometimes it can get a little bit less after, you know, they've been used up. But also there's a lull before it gets really hot in the UK, before I might need extra products because it is warmer and therefore things are happening with my very unruly hair. I have type 3 hair. It's very curly, and so when it is very hot and humid in the summer, my hair becomes very dry. So at that point in the year, I will normally introduce an extra hair product. However, some things may also change as well. For instance, I don't always use a mascara. Sometimes I get my brows done with the natural henna, same as my eyelashes, and that means I don't need a mascara. So sometimes that is less, am I going out of focus? Sometimes that's not included, sometimes it is. This particular one that I have is by a brand called Kiko, and it is in a glass, and it's in a glass tube. Now, for anybody who didn't watch the last one, I also use Dr. Bronner's because this is such a multifunctional item. When we're at home, sometimes we have the larger bottles that we dispense, but recently I've decided to do away with my soap dispensers, so we don't have them anymore. So I've currently refilled this one and using this one, but maybe after this one is gone, we will just have one big bottle on the side that we use for everything, because you can brush your teeth with it, shampoo your hair, wash, like use it like a shower gel or soap to wash your hands and your body, wash your pots, wash your clothes. It is a great multifunctional item and saves so much space. Now, this is a larger version of the Wild deodorant that I use for the stopover packing video. The one that I take when I travel, it's tiny and it's made of cardboard, but equally sustainable is the larger version, which is made from aluminium. It's refillable. My review of it is that it does work, however, it needs reapplying sort of every few hours. I'm always on the hunt for a better deodorant. I've tried probably 40 different deodorants that are natural, every deodorant just about on the market. And I have this weird thing, a bit similarly to with shampoo, that's Alexa in the background kicking off. I have this thing where my body, it initially works for, but after a few months, it's like my body gets used to it and it stops working for me, which is why I do sort of have to chop and change a lot with the deodorants that I use. Now, the next thing that I use when I'm at home, but not when I go traveling, just for the extra space it takes up, is the application for my tinted moisturizer, which I included in the last video. This again, it's aluminium, little brush. I just like to use it when I'm at home to sort of stop mess getting on my fingers, because with my tinted moisturiser being tinted, I sometimes forget I've got it on my fingers if I don't go immediately and wash my hands, and I end up marking things like my curtains and my sheets that I touch to tidy up. So that is something that I just like to use when I'm at home. The Lush, bit of ASMR for you all. These are the massive bottles I was talking about that they come in. Now obviously these are vegan, cruelty free, and they are one of the few perfumes on the market that are actually non-harmful, non-toxic, because even though they do use an alcohol as a perfume, it is a non-harmful skin irritant, because as I've often said, not all alcohols are created equally. Depending on how they've been made, some are not harmful, some are not drying, and it's to do with a different process of how they've been made. For instance, this one says organic alcohol denat. I don't know whether that did actually go into focus for you all, but hopefully it did. If it didn't, I'll include a little screen side of the ingredients. So, now the other thing that this often causes a little bit of an issue, but I'm going to talk about it because what I find in the minimalist community is a lot of us are trying to be zero waste. Not all of us, you know, some are just practical minimalists, but a lot of us are trying to be zero waste, sustainable, think about animals, think about the planet. However, sometimes some of us have health issues and complications, which makes sometimes our ethics a difficult debate even for ourselves. Now, I always try to buy as many products that are cruelty-free and vegan as I can, and it really doesn't sit well with my conscience if they can't be. But what I am going to acknowledge is that many of us, maybe not all of us, but very few of us, I think, would refuse medical care if, you know, a serious health complication depended on it. Now, sadly, a lot of those things are tested on animals. There's no way around that. And if if some of us can honestly stand up and say they would refuse medical care if it was an item tested on animal, fair enough, fair enough. Now, the point that I'm getting at here is, recently I have been having quite a few troubles, not just myself, I might add, me and my partner in this building that we live in. It is incredibly high alkaline water. It has actually brought both of my partner out in eczema type skin problems. So when we went to our doctor, and I'm gearing up to the thing here, the doctor advised us to get this. You may have noticed it is not the typical green Aveeno bottle. It is called Dermexa. It is a particular type of cream that is for people with eczema prone skin. The doctor suggested it to us. I don't intend to carry on using it. However, I am going to use it until this bottle is used up. There are a few silver linings to this product that I am going to discuss. It's made from oats and ceramides, and if you will notice, very, 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 very tiny, it does say down here that it is recycled and recyclable. Recyclable pump and bottle, and it is even made from 50% recycled plastic. So in terms of the environment, the actual bottle, not as bad as some people may think. I'm hoping that by the time I get to the end of this bottle, my skin and my partner's skin will have improved. It has already improved quite a lot. So I think that's going to be the case. I think by the time we get to the end of this bottle, we'll be okay, and we'll go back to a general moisturizer. Now, some people may be lucky enough to have great skin that doesn't need moisturizing all the time, and I was like that until quite recently. You know, in the early days I got away with just having a soap. but your environment can impact you, especially when it is to do with your skin and the type of thing you might need to use for it. The water in this particular building where we are living has affected mine and my partner's skin, and the fact it's working sort of shows that the doctor's recommendation was correct. Now when this is used up and I go to using a regular moisturiser, which is something that I've never had to do before until now, I'm looking for recommendations of a moisturiser that is in a sustainable packaging, that is as natural as can be. I'll settle for 98% if the second thing is like a preservative, because obviously we don't want to waste products that are so natural that they go off. And I obviously want it to be vegan and cruelty free. I'm going off the use of just oils on my skin, so I don't want to go back to using just an olive oil, argan oil, coconut oil. I would prefer it to either be in a balm or a cream form, because I share this. We generally get a big bottle that we leave in the apartment, and I share it with my partner, and he doesn't like using oils. And as I stated in the last video, because we use sun cream when we go on holiday, we're not bothered about it being travel size for when we go. For that time that we're gone, we just do without, because we know we'll be putting so much sun cream on, which is sort of moisturising as well. So that is all the products that I use when I'm at home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 products. Technically we don't need that if we've got that, but they are just left over. So, you know, when one of those has been used up, we'll decide what to have. I think I'll probably stick with the Dr. Bronner's for now. So when that has been used up, it will just be then. For anybody who briefly missed the last video, go back and watch it if you want to know how this changes when I travel. But 2 of the things that I also use on a day-to-day basis are these, but they're currently in my little travel kit. So they're all the products. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 products, but I don't always use that either. Sometimes I have my brows done, so then we're just at 6 products, and these were just the travel versions of those products, so they're not extra. So to finalise about toiletries, personal care as a minimalist, I wanted to say a few final thoughts. I think it's a very important area for our health, for our longevity. You know, our skin is the largest organ in our body. It's a very important thing to look after. So whilst I don't think that we need a 10-step skincare routine, I think for some of us living in different climates, there are different things that we do need, and I acknowledge that. And I wouldn't want to ever, just for the sake of extreme minimalism, be thinking I have to only use an olive oil soap. If it doesn't work for you, don't force yourself to do it. I'm not going to force myself to do it, not for the detriment of, you know, my health, my skin, my hair. I'm just not going to do that. I want to remind everybody that even as somebody who practices extreme minimalism, if I fancy trying a new product, I will, and I don't ever want my version of extreme minimalism to become so restrictive that I feel I can't do that, because that would be bordering on being toxic from my perspective. And after all, what we, you know, have to remember, and I constantly go about this for my version of extreme minimalism, is it is about balance, and restriction is not balanced at all. And for me to do with the products, just living with that would feel like restriction. There are a few other things that I would like to use. So that's why I try not to say to myself, oh, I can't have that product, that's one too many product, because, you know, where does that philosophy end? If you say to yourself, oh, I can't watch 2 hours worth of, you know, Netflix on an evening enjoying that film because that's too much consumption. I mean, I briefly touched on this in the evening routine, that consumption can be balanced as well, and I think that's healthy, and some things especially relatable to enjoying a film or enjoying a documentary, that they are a modern way of enjoying literature, not to go off topic, and it's a way for us all to relax. And, you know, art, media, films, books, arguably we could say that they're all a form of a thing that we consume, but how would we learn things if we didn't consume those things? Yes, there is such a thing as natural intuition, but I think sometimes we also, other than for fun, consume things for educational purposes as well. And it is a way to give our mind a kind of cathartic therapy and relaxation to not be constantly thinking, although in excess that would be a bad thing as well, to never have a moment to think. So what I actually like to practice is temperance, not rigidity. That sounds like such a weird word, but you know what I mean. I don't want to be rigid. And that is really what Taoist philosophers live by as well, that being too rigid and not being flexible to a degree, not being balanced with temperance, is an unbalanced extreme. So I still try to balance even in extreme minimalism. And another thing to briefly touch on is the idea that extreme minimalists don't wear makeup. If that works for you, great. But another thing I wanted to highlight is we all have very different complexions, different colouring, different social standards, upbringing, conservatisms. You know, there are lots of different things that can impact, affect us culturally and socially. Now, although I have had some lovely people tell me that they love my very, very pale skin, I actually have Scandinavian and Gaelic blood, you know, ancestry. Sometimes when I have absolutely nothing on my face, because today, which is stopping you completely seeing my true skin tone, I have this tinted moisturiser on, I sometimes feel like my skin is almost translucent. It is very, very pale, and I even get my own mum sometimes saying to me, oh, you don't look well today. And I tell her off when she says it to me, because I suppose somewhere subconsciously it makes you unaccepting of your own skin tone, because it's not about vanity necessarily wanting to wear the tinted moisturiser. It is definitely more about just not wanting to be told that I look sick or ill if I don't wear it. But I am just a very, very pale person. Heads up to the people that just put up with those type of comments who are very pale, because I think it's because it's not normalised what very, you know, many different skin tones can look like, that people think being very, very pale is a standard of perhaps looking anemic or looking sickly. And it isn't necessarily. Some people just, you know, are very, very fair. You know, I have blue eyes and blonde hair. You know, it's just one of those things. And I suppose some elements of our self-care or personal hygiene product are about our mental self-care as well, and how we feel about ourselves. Now, my personal perspective is, you know, layering on too much makeup is probably not very good for your skin. And that's why I'm mindful that even with something as sheer as a tinted moisturiser, you know, a moisturiser that's an SPF with a little bit of pigment, I even make sure that I have several days a week without it. I tend to put it on just on filming days or the weekend, and I have 2 to 3 days a week where I don't use it. Same with the lip balm and cheek tint. I even have a day off moisturising my skin so that my skin can breathe, albeit I still want it to be moisturised. So I'll have 1 or 2 days a week where I miss that on purpose, because I think it is good for our skin to have its natural process of sebum production, which if we start adding moisturiser all the time to, can affect it. So I even try to be balanced with my approach of how and when and how often I apply things. So that's all just food for thought, or products for thought for you all. That's what I like to do. What have we got coming up? We've got a few other sort of self-care things that I like to do coming up, and we may have a little packing series coming up as well. So I hope you all enjoy those, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!